In a quiet rural village in the Philippines, there was a river known as the River of Lost Souls. For generations, locals had whispered about strange occurrences near its banks. It was said that anyone who swam, or even dipped their feet into the river after sunset, would vanish without a trace. They said the river held spirits of those who had drowned there, people taken by the rivers, deep currents, whose bodies were never found. Elders told of how their souls had fused with the river, transforming it into a gateway to the spirit world. At night, when the moon was full, villagers claimed they could hear faint voices calling for help, echoing down the river, luring anyone unlucky enough to listen. One night, a young man named Miguel, newly arrived from the city, heard these stories and laughed them off. Miguel was brave, curious, and thought superstitions were just old tales meant to keep people in line. To prove the stories wrong, he decided to go to the river alone at midnight. With nothing but a small flashlight and a sense of adventure, Miguel made his way to the riverbank. The air was thick and silent. The only sound was the gentle rippling of water. As he stood at the edge of the river, he thought he heard something faint, a whisper, like someone calling his name. Brushing it off as his imagination, he leaned down to touch the water. But the moment his fingers touched the surface, a chill ran through him, and his flashlight flickered and died. In the darkness he felt a cold, wet hand wrap around his wrist, pulling him toward the water. Miguel struggled, but the hand was impossibly strong, as though it had been waiting just for him. He looked up, and in the moonlight, he saw faces emerging from the river, hollow eyes, twisted expressions, all reaching out toward him with desperate hands. One face, a young woman, whispered, "Join us. We are so lonely here." Terrified, Miguel fought with all his strength, managing to break free just before he was dragged under. He stumbled back onto the shore, gasping for breath, heart pounding. But as he looked at the river, he could still see the faces silently watching him, as though disappointed he had escaped. The next day, Miguel packed his things and left the village, never speaking of what he had seen. But he was forever haunted by those faces in the water, and the sound of his own name, whispered by lost souls who would wait for the next curious visitor to come close.